Hello. So I've been meaning to do this for a while, but I figured I would make some Pokemon in Hero System. Uh, Something I've been doing for a while, but I kind of wanted to stream it and just, let people hear a little bit about Hero System, see if they want to try it out sometime. Because I've tried running like some paid tabletop games and I've been on Start Playing Games for a little while, and Hero System is not popular, which is a real shame because it's a really nice system that I like a lot. So I've kind of already got the basics of the background here, the height and everything. Stuff that doesn't matter too much. Everything else is just the default so far. I've got a little pre-made character that I upload with some of the, I say that, but then, with some of the base stuff. But I think the first thing I'm going to change is I'm going to increase the point cap, because I want this to be sort of like a little mini-boss. I just imagine it like hanging out with a pack of Petlil in the forest, guarding some sort of, I don't know, thing that the players need to do something with. The usual points for a player character is 300. Hero System is a Hero System is a point buy system, meaning that basically, it's an a la carte kind of deal. You have your points, you go to the menu, you see what you want, you build it, and then you pay whatever the point cost is. It's more Subway than McDonald's, I suppose. Or whereas like Dungeons and Dragons is, you go to a fancy restaurant maybe, and they have like a pre-made menu, and then they have however many courses, I guess 20 courses, and you get to pick from which individual course you want. Instead, in Hero System, it's just the whole menu is available to you at any time. So there's nothing stopping you from just having cake the entire meal if you want to. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put in the resistances and weaknesses for being a grass type Pokemon. Then I'm going to go ahead and go on to the abilities second. Just going to remind myself real quick what grass is weak to and strong against. Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So the way I'm doing type advantages here is effectively, since everything is based on powers in Hero System, or at least a lot of stuff is. So then you have damage resistance, the power that I'm using for this, is just a flat reduction to however much damage you're taking by 25, 50, or 75%. So I'm treating single resistances as a 25% resistance, so this 50% one can just go ahead and go. And then I'm just going to write in here, ground, water, grass, electric type resistance. Because whenever I hit a Pokemon with an attack, it comes up with a little prompt saying, hey, does this defense apply? And it says this name specifically, so I want to make sure that the type of this is the useful information for knowing if something is gonna be resisted or not. So that's what I like to do. And then, so you have the base power, and maybe I should just go ahead and, you know what, I'll just make a move real quick, because I think that's probably the fastest and easiest way to introduce things. So Energy Ball is a nice little special move, no added effects, really simple. I've made it a couple times already, honestly. So I'm just going to go ahead and make a Blast. Select that. And this is just the base power. At its base level, it's just Blast is do damage at range. Specifically do normal damage at range. There's a couple different damage types you can do. this is the one for, hey, I'm just wanting to hit somebody normally. I don't want it particularly deadly. I'm not targeting a stat. I'm not trying to do something like mind control. This is just doing normal damage. Versus ED is versus energy defense. That's what I've been using for special moves, so it's defaulted to what I need it for. And then I want this to be generally pretty powerful, but not like one-shot strong, so I'm gonna go ahead and put this at the upper end. 12 is like my soft, well, okay, so it depends on what I'm using this for in each campaign. If I'm doing it for a one-shot, I have damage tuned up a little bit more. If I'm doing it for an actual campaign where I can afford to like, hey, we can spend half a session on a combat, because, you know, if you really want to get involved there, then, you know, you need a little more time to mess around with things. So I'm just going to go ahead and design this for a campaign, I'll assume. So then in that case, my soft cap of damage is 10, and then my hard cap of damage is 12. So that's set up there. But now how do I actually like flavor it and turn it into energy ball from here? Well, first thing I do is I just mark breast type attack in the notes section. And the handy thing about that is that the system I use, Foundry, can automatically pick that up. So if I shot Lilligant with energy ball from another Lilligant, this resistance would notice, hey, it's got grass in the name, this has grass in the notes, it probably applies, and it'll be pre-checked for me. Then, where the real magic and hero system is, the modifiers. You have advantages and limitations. Advantages change the power in ways that make them stronger, give them bonus effects in a way, not just extra damage, but like better ways of doing damage, more likely to hit, longer range, all sort, interesting things like that. And then limitations are the opposite. They make it cheaper, but then on the offside, they're making it weaker as well. So first of all, energy ball, as I said, it's pretty simple. I think I am, since this is a boss, I want it to be kind of powerful. It's probably going to be more of a ranged attacker. I'll just go ahead and give it half range modifier so it can more effectively use this at long range. Actually, oh yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do that. And then, thinking about it, my initial thought is like peaceful forest guardian, that they probably won't actually fight. They'll probably, role play around or bargain with in some way. But, you gotta have attacks in case they do attack it. So I'm gonna go for stun only, because hero system has two different health bars. It has the health bar body, which controls whether or not you're alive or not, and then the consciousness health bar stun. So by stun only, it means that this thing can't actually do body. And you know what, with that, I'm gonna go ahead and put it up to the hard cap. So it hits really hard, it can hit you from a long range, but it's not actually gonna kill you. At least not with this attack. Maybe I'll give it something else. Then the next part is to make it more Pokemon-y. Basically, every move that I've used for Pokemon has the charges limitation. This is, your bullets in the gun, this is how many shots you have, this is your power points. And I'm gonna go ahead and it's only got 10 power points, but I'll just go ahead and give it 8. And now, as you can see, because it only has 8 uses there before you have to like go and restock, this is a -1/2 complication, or limitation, sorry. Complications are a different thing. So the active point is, if I unclick the modifiers, 60 points just from the 12 d6s there. And this one is a +1/4, and this one is a +0, because, sometimes you want to kill somebody, sometimes you don't, so this is kind of, it balances out. The half range modifier is clearly an advantage, so it is at least a little bit of an advantage. So then that pops it up it adds 1/4 of the price back onto the price, and then that increases the active points. The real cost is how much is actually spent to buy the power. So this is sort of like an overall, how strong is this power at its maximum capacity? If it's, if all the stars align and everything's working out for it great, how strong is the power? So then there's also, like, the rules for Hero System give you a whole bunch of advice on how to, like, limit the active points and balance them out versus other things to sort of keep them in line. Then the real cost, of course, is, as I said, it's what you're actually paying. So out of the 450, I have spent 98, which I believe I've spent... So I've spent 18 like on resistant protection, but I'll get in that later. Don't know where I'm reaching 98 already. Have I spent 24? Okay, so I have spent quite a few points on... Oh yeah, because I'm remembering now. I already... Like I said, I have like a little template thing that I just load up as a old character and then save as a new thing, so I don't have to do the little base work all the time. But so yeah, that's Energy Ball, and I'll go ahead and pop it up top. So probably Lilligant's go-to move, hits pretty hard. Hits pretty hard, doesn't kill anything. So now I do the same thing with the type reduction damage, or with the type damage reduction. So I've got my handy dandy little sheet of paper out in front of me that reminds me of, like, okay, if the conditional... I keep getting ahead of myself because I've done this so many times. I've got literally, like, I think 30, maybe 40 Pokemon already finished. So the conditional power conditional power limitation is the one that makes it so that Foundry asks me if it applies or not. And then what this little box here is how often that condition comes up. So if it's power only works while character is touching the ground, that's a -1/4 because presumably most characters are going to be touching the ground most of the time, so it's not a big deal. The way I've been working it is, the more types it is, then I put it lower, or I put it higher and higher on the circumstances. So it resists 4 types, so I have that listed as very common, just to remind myself there. If you had like a Klefki, I think Klefki had a ton of them. Empoleon would be like, it would be up here basically. I only went up to 4 to 6 resistances, but yeah, if you had like Gen 4, if somebody specifically wanted to build Gen 4 Empoleon, you could. So then that's a -1. So that basically splits the cost of the power in half. So then this is how I balance out type resistances and type weaknesses, because now, so that's 7 points for the resistances. And hey, if you wanted to get screwy and have like, I don't know, let's say a Cacnea that's just so used to not drinking water that maybe its grass isn't resistant to rock. So let's say that it picks up a resistance to rock type moves, but it trades in its resistance to water. You could do that. That's probably a bad example because it would literally just be taking water off this and then replacing it with rock, but I hope you get what I'm trying to say. And now for the last bit, we go over to complications. And complications in Hero System are amazing. I started working on a pseudo tutorial for Hero System. It's not like a really big tutorial. It's sort of like an introduction to the individual things to kind of like get people interested and have a little bit of an idea on how things work going into it. But so when I was making that tutorial, I likened these to basically the player chooses these as they are loading a gun, and then they hand that gun to the GM so that when things start getting a little boring, the GM can pull the gun out and shoot the character with it. I have since come across the analogy of a knife theory that says that a well-crafted backstory in a tabletop game is like a lovingly made knife that the player is giving to the GM to stab them with. The great thing about the complications is that it's giving you points for taking these things that are specifically set up that they're very fitting with the knife analogy. You can make a backstory that doesn't have any hooks or anything and doesn't really work that well to give the DM anything to punish the player. Well, not punish the player, but, to hurt the character with and create some drama. The way these are factored out, they pretty much kind of have to create some form of drama, or at least they have to give that chance for some form of drama. Like, it's taking the elements that would make a good knife, extracting them, and has gamified them, and actually woven them into a way to unlock, your character's full power. At least normally that's how it's used. Is matching complications, 30 points. Basically, if this were a normal hero character, if I took no points of complications, then they would only have 420 points. But then for every point in complications they took, they would unlock a point from those complications up to the maximum 450. The way I normally run it is I would just normally give my players the 420 and then upgrade and then give them basically bonus experience for taking the complications. Some players have, gone into very, very strong character builds with that, but very flawed characters that's created a lot of drama. You've got dependent NPC for your Jimmy Olsens, your Lois Lanes, your Aunt Mays. Dependents for Aquaman needing water. Rivalry for Doctor Doom and Mr. Fantastic. All sorts of interesting stuff here. Negative reputation if your character is a known asshole. And then vulnerability. This is taking bonus damage from particular kinds of damage, or even taking taking damage from things that normally wouldn't be damaging is susceptibility. Vulnerability is taking bonus damage from certain types of attacks. Where have I heard something like that before? So, I'm gonna go ahead, and since it's only... Oh, this is Hisuian Lilligant. There we go. I was a little confused there because how does it have a 4 times? Okay. Yeah, so since these are all 2 times, I just set them to 1.5 times effect. And then this is going to be flying type X. Boop. And now I'm just going to go ahead and copy and paste this. How many times? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 3, 4, 5. And now I'm just going to go ahead and go through and relabel these real quick. So then basically what I have been doing for player characters in the Pokemon games is just the more vulnerabilities you get, the more bonus points you get. Grass has 5 weaknesses, so Lilligant here is going to get 25 extra points. Or honestly, this is a mini-boss. It's an NPC, I control the points. Maybe I'm just not going to give it the points. Maybe I'm just going to give it a few extra over 450. We'll see. It's all relative. Big thing I learned about this game was not to get too what's a good phrase? My brain's saying persistent, and that's just not too persnickety, I guess. Not to get too persnickety about like NPCs and perfectly getting them to a round number of points. Because like you look at some characters and they'll have like 436, others will have like 735, and you know, they round out. Some of them round out, most of them they have really weird odd numbers because it's just whatever was needed to make the character the way the character was imagined. So NPC 450 is just a general guideline here. As long as I am keeping it with my active point and my damage class ranges, which I'll explain that in a moment here when I'm making more attacks. You know, as long as I'm keeping it like that, it's not too bad. But before I change topics, can I complain about how Bubblepedia just doesn't arrange these alphabetically? It just gets under my skin when I'm trying to write these things out, and it's just not in a base order that it would work. Okay. Now let's go ahead and build one more power before we get into working on the rest of the character and where we can get some more customizability, I guess. So Lilligant has chlorophyll and own tempo. So I'm going to go ahead back to here on the powers page, and chlorophyll is boosts speed and sunlight. Own tempo is no confusion, right? Yep. Okay. Does that get Petal Blizzard? Or was it? It's not Petal Blizzard, is it? Petal Dance, that's it. Oh, so it does get Petal Dance. That's strong. That's a good combo. I didn't know that. And that gives me an idea for an attack, but that's for right here in a little bit. So then what I'm going to do is... So for own tempo, the way that I've been making confusion is I've been making a mind control with a set effect of just hit yourself, and then making it so that, you know, it's pretty easy to break out of it after the first turn. So then what I'm going to do is make a mental defense. Own tempo. And I'm going to go ahead and say like 10 points, but then I'm going to put the conditional power modifier on it. And let's see, I've also used mind control for sleep. And what else have I used it for? Not many other things. So I guess there's really only two kind of deals. There's only two kinds of things that it works on. So I'm going to go ahead and just put it to a half modifier. Oh, and power only works against confusion. There we go. So basically, whenever something tries to mind control them, this mental defense will kick in as extra defense against the attack. And then for chlorophyll, the easiest way I like to do that is with an aid. Aid powers are things that will boost a character's stats. The Foundry can only really automate boosting characteristics, but in the full game it has rules for literally boosting anything. Like, theoretically, I could make an aid that boosts own tempo, according to the game's rules. I'm going to keep it simple here. Aid to speed. And then let's see. So limitation here is going to be actually, does it learn Sunny Day? Can it learn Sunny Day? Sure, it probably can, yes. So I'm always a little... So basically no conscious control is just the character doesn't actually have control over the power. However, since it can learn Sunny Day, it's a little bit... What did I do for Because I started working. Was it Snowcloak? Started working that differently. You know what? I'm just going to set it up with a trigger. Activating the trigger is an action that takes no time, so you don't even have to do it on your turn. It does require time to reset in very bright sunlight. I forget the exact term for how Pokemon refers to sunny day. Like, the sunlight is harsh, the sunlight is bright, not sure. Oh, yeah, I'll just say in harsh sunlight. So then that's sort of like, it just triggers, something else uses sunny day, or even if the player is like, hey, isn't it a really sunny day today, then we can trigger that. But then I'm also going to go ahead and put charges on it, and I'm just going to limit it to like 3, I think. This will make it way cheaper, and this will also just, make it so the player doesn't necessarily want to use it all the time. But so this will basically be a boost to its speed. Oh, and actually, expanded effect, 2 characteristics or powers, which I can increase to 3, 4, 5, blah, blah, blah. But I only want it for 2. And so now, speed and dexterity, which is basically so speed is how many turns you get. Dexterity is what position you're in within those turns. So then this will be a pretty big buff to Dex, because Dex is 2 points per point of Dex. Speed is 10 character points per point of speed. So this 2d6 might not even get them another point of speed, however, they will absolutely get more Dex. You know what? I'll go ahead. They're a boss. I'll go ahead and just pump it up to 3. Because 3d6, so 3.5 times 3, 9. That's that's 11. Duh, I know that because that's how math works in Hero System a lot of times, is 3d6. I should know those numbers for sure. Yeah, so it'll pretty much 60% of the time give them a buff to Dex, and then give them give them a buff to speed, and then it will definitely give them a buff to Dex, because even if they rolled 3 1s, they would still get at least a point of Dex out of that. So now that's everything that's more. Oh, well, actually, what's Leaf Guard do? I forget what Leaf Guard is. That's protects against status effects in sunlight? Yes. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and, you know what, this is a boss, so we're giving it good powers. So the way I do most status effects is with drains, which, if I could actually show it up, drains, which mostly target characteristics. And they are stopped by power defense. So if you watched that live play that I did with Milky the Squid, Vulpixie, and Haruka, and Jmoji, first thing Milky tried to do was Thunderwave the Mandibuzz, and, Big Pex kicked in and protected it from the Thunderwave. This is why, because I just had power defense set up as a broad, protects against pretty much any kind of status, stat reduction, everything, all in one package, which is really strong. Honestly, even I started off with, because I try to make the abilities around 10 points worth of cost, and 10 points in power defense is actually quite a lot. So I had already limited it to 6, and it still honestly kind of fucked Milky over. So basically, I'm going to start reworking it a little bit to include the conditional power, and I'm going to be a little bit more decisive about it. So, doesn't work in roughly half the time, because, so, you know, if hit by... I was about to say Thunder Wave, but that's specifically what Leaf Guard is to prevent. Huh. You know, if hit by an actual status move, then I'm going to say that it's not working. If hit... Yeah. If hit by a status move, like something that inflicts burn or paralysis, then this kicks in. If hit by something that is like growl or tail whip, then this will not kick in. So that's roughly half the time, so I'm putting on the 1/2 modifier. So power does not, well, power only prevents status effects. So for the way Drain works, it's basically the opposite of an aid. So like this 3d6, if this were a Drain speed, so basically this is what Thunder Wave is actually, would be Drain, speed, and Dex 3d6. It would have to be whatever the 3d6 rolled minus 10 is what's actually subtracted from the stat. So after the 3d6, that's an average of 11. Or sorry, that's an average of 10, so it's 50% of the time it's going to be stopped cold. Or actually, it's an average of 10 with 11. Yeah, 11 or less is 60% of the time. 10 is 50-50. So there's a 50-50 chance of Thunder Wave just completely getting eaten by Leaf Guard here. And even if they rolled a full 18, best they can possibly get, it would still only do 8 points of damage, which is 4 dex dropped and no speed. Now, we're gonna go ahead and we're going to get into the more customizable stuff that I've been promising. So first of all, we're going to go for characteristics. Now, like I said, this is going to be a mini boss, so it needs to be pretty... Keep forgetting stuff. So something else I like to do is I just... let's see. Since it is like the boss, I'm also going to put on just 25% damage reduction. I'm just going to call it boss resistance. And this is for energy, and then I'm going to go ahead and also give it one for physical. Now, the type resistance does have the same energy, physical, and mental capacity thing here, but it was honestly a little bit absurd to make them pay for the same resistance 3 times. And basically, even if it doesn't actually apply, the conditional modifier will make it so that it will ask me and I can just apply it manually. So, you know, there's no purpose in... What I was doing beforehand was I was buying it, and then I was going to this custom adder and putting like a minus 15 to bring the cost down to 0. And then that was... It won't let me have the box empty. There we go. Which, I'll just get rid of that too. So yeah, then I'd have 2 more of these boxes here, and then it'd just be a whole mess of things being up there whenever somebody would do an attack on it, and it'd be like, well, which one am I clicking on? Well, chances are they're all duplicates of each other anyway, so like, why make it multiple times and blah, blah, blah. These, since they are separate, like for this one's physical, this one's energy, I am just going to go ahead and, you know, include both, because these are legitimately doing their job the way that they're intended to, so I'm just going to buy them the way they're intended to be bought. Now, okay, so looking at it, it is generally not really tanky, pretty frail. Not sure what average health is, but I should be getting an idea of what average health is, honestly, because of how many of these I've made, but Haven't really. So I don't want this to be something that can be killed super easily, so I'm going to go ahead and give it a bunch of body. But then I'll go ahead and give it like 36 stun. Stun is 1 point for 2 points, so, 35 would be a little bit of a waste, so we're getting 36. Speed, it is, I believe that's relatively speedy. I don't know, I've tried looking up like speed ranges and stuff, and everything just kind of focuses on like what the... Oh, here are the fastest Pokemon, here are the slowest Pokemon. Nobody tells you what the most average speed Pokemon is. Nobody tells you what the median speed Pokemon is. So I'm kind of... We're going vibe based on the characteristics here a lot. When I made Mew, because all of its stats are the same, I did a thing where I just kind of jokingly went through and made it so that all of these stats on top were the same value. So it is relatively speedy, like I said, so we'll just go ahead and give it 20 meters of running. That's kind of like the 20 meters of running is a nice average for the size of the maps that I make. Some Pokemon, some characters in Pokemon I like making particularly speedy, some of them I like making a little slower, but 20 is where things are most comfortable at. I believe Vulpixie in that video had like 30 running, but then she also had 20 leaping. So she had like a 10 meter or 30 foot vertical jump, and she could leap as far as most people could run. And then typically the way I run leaping too is, assuming that you haven't been like knocked off a ledge or something, you just don't take fall damage up until your movement, basically. So endurance, I'll give it a few points of endurance just because endurance is cheap. Honestly, endurance is normally what powers moves, but you see these brackets here, that's the number of power points, and power points replaces the endurance cost. So most of my Pokemon don't end up needing much endurance. When your character is out of endurance in Hero System, they start spending stun to act. So, like, I've had a couple fights that like came down to knockdown, to just knock down, drag out brawls between two guys with super strengths just hammering at each other. And the thing that finally won the fight was both guys were at like single-digit endurance costs, and one guy did his whole combo, but the other guy just barely stayed up. And because the first guy had to spend just a little bit of his own stun, he had pushed himself into the negative stun. Or he was very close to negative stun, sorry. So then the other guy did a little 2-hit combo, which put himself in negative endurance, put himself at at 0 endurance, and then sucked up some of his stun to do the attack. But then he did like a little 2-hit combo. The first hit knocked the guy into negative stun, but it was only like -1 or 2 stun, which is you take a recovery action and then you get up the next turn after that. But if you take stun damage while you're at negative stun, you take double stun damage. So basically swept the other guy off of his feet with his sledgehammer, lifted over his head, and then just slammed the guy through the concrete. Really awesome climactic end to that fight. Speaking of recovery actions, recovery here is how many points of endurance and stun you get if you just take a turn off to recover and heal yourself a little bit. Willingly or not, if you're at negative stun, kind of your only option is to take a recovery action. It's also how quickly you recover body, but that's measured in weeks. So like right now, Lilligant, if they had 10 points of body worth of damage, it would take them a couple months to heal back up to full. I'm going to go ahead and put the recovery up to 8. A nice little amount. So defenses. there's two main forms of defenses here. Well, I guess technically four, but we have physical defense and energy defense. And then there is also RPD and RED, which is resistant physical defense. Regular PD is for blocking stuff like clubs and punches. Resistant is for like where you're blocking bullets and killing things and killing attacks. So I start every Pokemon off at the base 6 resistant protection of both types. And since this is a boss, I'm going to go ahead and put it up a little bit. I've got a maximum of a maximum of 12 resistant protection is typically where I try to put things. It's already got this damage reduction here, so I'm just going to go ahead and put it up to 8. And it's even on both, right? Yeah, so I'm not going to make one. You know what? We'll go ahead and make it 9. So it's not super tanky, like I said. But it is somewhat sturdy. It can take a hit. And then, let's see. So my range for total defense, so then resistant protection adds to regular physical defense for normal attacks. Resistant protection is the only thing standing in your way between killing damage, but then it teams up with physical defense to block normal damage attacks like our energy ball here. So my typical range I try to keep the defense at is 18. And since Lilligant, it's a frailer Pokemon, but it is a mini boss, so I want it to be relatively sturdy. So I'm just going to go ahead and put it at the 18 mark for now. And later on, if I've got extra points, I'll maybe put a little bit extra in here. Speed, I normalize everything to just 3 points of speed in the Pokemon games. And then if it's something particularly speedy, I'll pump it up a bit, which actually, it is 90 speed. I think around 100 speed, though, is where I typically start going up to 4. And since it has the chlorophyll, I don't want it going that much faster, though. Because here's the thing, it is a mini boss. It'll likely be the last thing standing on its team. So, you know what? We'll go ahead and give it the 4. Again, it's a mini boss. It's got to be tougher than a normal Lilligant. And the major part of that is actually being able to stand up action economy wise to the players. So, man, I just realized I'm doing this in completely the opposite order. OCV, DCV, OMCV, DMCV. What do all these mean? CV is combat value. So basically these are accuracy checks. DCV's defensive combat value. This is how hard you are to hit. OCV is offensive combat value. This is how hard a time you have hitting other things. So OCV is I propped it up a little bit for the Pokemon game because, most of these, look at the accuracy, it's 100%. So I gave pretty much all the Pokemon, they have 2 points to their accuracy just for free. That weakens things like dodging, but I think it works all right. It definitely works for the one shot because it really rewards being very offensive because you're that much more likely to hit. So I'm just going to go ahead and leave this where it is, honestly. I think at the default is fine. Though saying that, I'll go ahead and put DCV up 1 point. It's the boss Lilligant. If it's a little harder to hit, a little harder to hurt, makes sense. Okay, now we're getting into the D&D stats, basically. Strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, ego, presence. If you've played D&D, you can probably kind of assume what these do. One little problem with using the Foundry, I can't modify Hero System in such a way. Well, okay, if I was just doing it pen and paper, I could mod the crap out of the system in so many ways. The book literally has entire chapters dedicated to, hey, here is how you change things. Can't do that in this foundry because I'm not a computer programmer. Honestly, if I went and harassed the people on the Hero System Discord, they might institute some stuff I asked them for, depending on how hard or how easy it is, because they have been very nice to me, but this is kind of tangential anyway, so I'm not gonna ask anything soon. But the whole thing that kicked this little tangent off is that I use strength to boost attack, but then I can't do the same for special attack with, say, probably intelligence would be the way to do it, or maybe presence, but I'm thinking intelligence would, well, no, because then, yeah, because it's which one of these is like I guess the weakest is the one that would probably be best to turn, okay. I'm sorry, I cut myself off a lot because my brain works faster than my mouth, so I kind of just, if I realize that I'm incorrect halfway through a statement, or if I think of a better idea, I just kind of cut myself off right there and jump to the new track as soon as possible. I have noticed that there is sort of a mirroring in the strength, dexterity, and constitution between intelligence, ego, and presence, where strength can be used for attacks, presence can be used for presence attacks. I believe it was, I forget my reasoning right now, but I think intelligence and dexterity were the two that lined up with each other. Yeah, oh yeah, and then con and ego line up with each other because constitution is used for a defensive purpose and ego resists mind control. So then by that matter, presence would be the thing that would boost special attack, even though thematically I guess intelligence would fit better, but just, you know, I mean, it's got an attack option here, so it fits with strength. But so yeah, moving on, what that basically means is the special attack I kind of have to leave alone. If I was making Hisuian Lilligant, which I kind of, for this reason, I flirted with the idea of making Hisuian Lilligant instead of regular Lilligant because of this, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just making regular Lilligant. Basically, I would buff the strength damage a lot. 105 is pretty decent strength, so it'd go up. For comparison, I think like Volpixie was 30 strength, so she was really, really strong. Actually, in the base hero rules, does it tell me how much? No, it doesn't. Not on the hero designer. Which, by the way, if you're getting into hero system, hero designer is a wonderful piece of software that is very helpful at making it so that you just spend hours and hours and hours and hours making characters, where beforehand I used to be able to crank one out in like 20 minutes. This isn't because of any problem with the software, it's just because now it's so easy to adapt everything that my perfectionism wins over my laziness, and I have to make everything exactly perfect and line everything up, and ooh, I want to try this, or I want to try adjusting this, and then I just take ages doing something when I could just throw some numbers on a piece of paper and be done with it. And it's $30, I believe. So yeah, strength, I'm gonna go ahead and just leave where it is. Dexterity, as I said, is relatively speedy, so I'm gonna go ahead. 14 is my, quote, relatively speedy mark. Constitution is whenever you take stun damage, if you take more than your constitution, you get stunned. Lilligant is a boss. Lilligant is a grass type. It has some big weaknesses, and it's going to be taking a lot of damage. People are going to be focusing fire on it. It needs a lot of constitution, so I'm just going to put it at 20. Intelligence is how much perception you have, and then skills that are intelligence based are focused on this. And it's got quite a high special attack, so I'll just go ahead and give it a 14. Ego, as I said, is mental defense, high special attack. Well, doesn't have particularly high special defense, but we'll go ahead and just throw the ego there. And it is a Pokemon renowned for its beauty. So presents go up. Let's say 25 right there. Actually, we're going to go ahead and go with 20. And then, as a bonus, I'm going to go to talents. And we have, where is it? I was just thinking the name, and now I can't remember what the first, it's striking appearance. Yes, okay. Striking appearance is bonuses to presence attacks, basically. So, if something, depending on what the, on how the appearance is striking. Is that how you spell beautiful? Whenever I learn the word beautiful, I'm going to go ahead and give it 3 d6s here, by the way. Very beautiful. When I learned the word beautiful, the teacher made a point to spell it wrong because I wasn't actually learning to spell beautiful. I was learning to spell beautiful because I was learning about computers, and hey, make sure that your password is that you're spelling it correct when you're doing it. Because if you spell beautiful wrong and then you learn how beautiful is actually spelled, it's not going to take the actual spelling of beautiful. You have to enter your password exactly. So do not spell it this way. And that's just it. It fried the word beautiful in my brain always and forever now. Okay, so let's go ahead and stop off by skills. Normally I hold skills off for last, but I'm just gonna kind of go along here. I've been jumping all over. I just want to go through a little bit straight for now. So let's see. It's very, very charming, very beautiful Pokemon. Like I said, I'm imagining some sort of forest guardian hanging out with Petlil all day as it's chilling out. So I will go ahead and give it some good combat skills and some good negotiation skills. Breakfall is a really good combat skill because if you get knocked back by an attack, then you didn't get knocked down is what that means. And because getting knocked down, you then have to take a half action to stand up, can really screw you over in the middle of a fight. Charm, I don't think it's good at computer programming. Conversation is basically talking to somebody and kind of tricking them into giving you information without them actually realizing that you're giving them information. I also use it as a general conversationalist skill for certain things. That one doesn't come up so much, but I've had the actual conversation, the typical use come up quite a few times. Disguise might be fun just for hiding itself as a flower. But I think that might be more of a stealth thing. High society, you know what? It's kept by very pretty people, so I'm going to go ahead and say that it has some high society. Pretty flower, kept by the nobility. Navigation, oratory, because it's got to keep the little Petlils entertained, and this is the giving speeches and entertaining an audience. The thing that streamers are really good at that I am not. Paramedics, this is good for stabilizing people who are dying, and I'm imagining that this is the mom of the group, so it probably gets a lot of use out of that from whatever the rambunctious Petlil are doing. And then persuasion, of course, is another good persuasive skill. You know what, we'll go ahead and pump that one up. So skills typically cost a base. Okay, so yeah. Typically, whenever you buy a skill, you buy it for 3 points, and what that does is that 13 minus is based off of the characteristic. 20 presence gets you a 13 minus on your presence rolls, so that's a 13 minus on your interaction skill rolls, because interaction skills are determined by presence. You can buy cheaper versions like a familiarity, I know I know of persuasion, but I haven't like sat down and read a book on how to persuade people. So then that's an 8 minus, which is like a 30% chance of success. Not a good chance of success, honestly. That's like you know of persuasion, you haven't learned how to do it. You know that it's a thing, basically. But that only costs 1 point. So sometimes it can be really handy to like just buy a bunch of points or a whole bunch of skills for 1 point, and then kind of have a character that can do a little bit of everything. You're probably not going to succeed, but at least if your main paramedics guy fails his roll, sometimes you can just make that Hail Mary to make your A- roll. Then the next step up is proficiency, where haven't practiced it. Well, maybe you haven't read the book yet, but you've tried to practice persuasion on your own. Maybe you haven't practiced persuasion on your own, but you've read the book. 10 minus, 50-50 shot of success. That's proficiency. Then 3 points, like I said, that's the full 13. But then for every 2 points after that, you can buy another one to roll under. So I want this to be a very persuasive and very charming Forest Guardian. So we'll go ahead and put that there. I go for rapid. You know what? Rapid attack is also going to be a good one because that is a very good combat skill. It's phrased a little bit differently, so I like to set these apart from the rest, either on the top or on the bottom. What this means is if a character or a hero or a Pokemon or an NPC does a multi-attack maneuver, typically that eats their entire turn, so they can't run or move or do anything else. Rapid attack means that it only does a half action, so you can run up to somebody and then hit them multiple times with a bunch of different moves. It depends on what moves Lilligant has to see if it will like really benefit from this, but it's just, again, it's a boss. It's going to be ganged up on and outnumbered. Well, my imagining is that we'll have a bunch of 200, maybe 250 point pet lils surrounding it that will be very frail and pretty weak. So basically it will start by outnumbering the characters, but only technically. In reality, they're gonna beat the poor little pet lil down pretty quickly, and then it's gonna be this thing against all 4 players. So rapid attack helps, like giving it extra speed helps to even the odds a little bit. So, sorry, I just had to munch on a little tin can there. Would an Aeron eat a tin can? They eat iron ore, right? I should know these things before I start using it as an avatar. Science skill, scientist, pet lil. Yeah, security systems is for like building type like traps and alarm. Actually, you know what? And just like that, so that's also the other thing I love about this software that makes it take so long, is that just, reading through things and kind of pondering it out, I was like, wait a second, a pet lil that like makes a bunch of traps to keep out intruders, that seems pretty cool. You know what? We'll go ahead and just give it an extra point there. Then shadowing, this is basically following people around, and stealth or sneaking. Oh wait, I already bought stealth. Where's stealth? There it is. I like keeping these in alphabetical order. Streetwise is another one of those presence-based skills, but this one is for, interacting with people like in the city with like criminals and stuff. Not really something that Pet Lil here is going to be concerning itself with. Survival, however, is the thing that I put on pretty much all of my Pokemon characters. basically, you know, this is just the how do you survive out in the wild, which they're Pokemon, they should know that. Oh, and as I was saying, surrounded by Petlil, so it's going to have tactics and teamwork. Tactics is, I use that as sort of a, for players, I use that as a, hey GM, what do you think that we should do? Like, what does it look like this enemy we're fighting is about to do, maybe? You know, just sort of a little like, I have a question for God kind of thing. Honestly, not so useful against on NPCs, but I include it anyway. Teamwork is the interesting one because it opens up combo attacks. The big thing about the combo attacks is you add the stun together of the attacks for determining whether somebody is stunned or not. So, you know, if I use the energy ball and it does 30 points of stun, and then a little Petlil attack, or yeah, so if I, you know, it does 24 points of stun, let's say, and then after it goes through a character's energy defense, it comes out to only doing like 10 points of constitution, and the enemy has 11 points of constitution. Then little Petlil comes in and it uses its, and you know, it's held off on using its turn to team up with Lilligant. So now it does its attack. It does 3 damage by the end after defenses. Well, now it's 13 total to overcome Constitution. That overcomes the 11 Constitution, and it gets stunned and loses its next turn. So teamwork is a very useful skill. And then in the same vein as the security systems, tracking. And you know what? Let's go with trading too. And ventriloquism, so it can do the whole like speaking mysteriously from the shadows thing and nobody quite knows where it is. Okay, so I've already spent quite a few points, but that's okay. It's a mini boss. I'm just shovel stuff onto there, basically. Since it is a, why are we not scrolling? There we go. Since I'm using it as a mini boss, I'm thinking about maybe giving it some martial arts. I use these to kind of simulate fighting type moves. These are like your standard attack in Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, is maybe the best way to say them. Best way to say it. You pay a little bit of endurance, and then you punch them with your strength damage, and then the martial arts modify that in some way. So for instance, basic strike increases your OCV and adds 2d6s of damage to the punch. Now, this wouldn't be very good for Lilligant because it only has 10 strength. For reference, basically I have been trying to keep attacks at least 6 dice worth of damage, which would be 6 damage classes. Don't really worry about that too much. Just 6 dice of normal damage is the limit, is the like lower limit of where I try to put the floor in this game. So even with that martial art, it still wouldn't even be there. So with that in mind, honestly, and like I said, it's a ranged attacker, not really any point in throwing like a block on here or a grapple or anything. So I'm just gonna, you know what? We're just not gonna deal with martial arts at all. We're just going straight to the attacks now. This is the good stuff here. So, Petal Blizzard, is that different from Petal Dance? Does damage to all adjacent Pokemon. It's a wind move. What does that mean? Does that mean it's in winds and waves? Introduced in Generation 9, that's why I don't know anything about it. Okay, so there's abilities that affect wind moves that make them immune to damage. That's interesting, that's cool. Oh, that's very cool. Okay. So, Okay. I was saying pedal dance is a good thing to go for. So now we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna build that. And this is gonna be sort of Lilligant's really strong Hail Mary attack, basically. Like, Energy Ball doesn't work. The enemy's not giving up. Then it'll go ahead and whip out the pedal dance. Does pedal dance attack everything around it or just anything in particular? What's the exact mechanism here? Who does it hit? It becomes confused, but what is it hitting? Is it hitting the... Like, Pedal Blizzard hits everything adjacent to the user. Is this... Okay, you know what? It's... Oh, affects a random opponent. Okay. We don't have to go with that. Actually, yeah, so what we're gonna... Okay, so then in that case, what we're gonna do is... we're going to make it a killing attack ranged. So I'm going to make Pedal Dance like the close range, damage enemies with their, that are around them kind of thing. So what I'm going to do is area of effect. So this affects everything in a radius. I'll go ahead and make it an 8-meter radius. So that's quite a big radius. And then for limitations, we're going to say no range. Oh, and personal immunity. So what this means is anytime they use the attack, the AoE just drops right on themselves and it damages everything in the area around them. Friend or foe alike. Actually, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and lower that radius a little bit because, Peaceful Forest Guardian just attacking well, this is the Berserk button though. I'll leave it at the 4. So, for killing damage, there's lower dice, but the dice have a bigger effect because, as I said, you need resistant protection to defend against killing damage. And typically, characters have less body than they have stun. So 3d6 is actually 9 DCs. So I'm going to go ahead and put this at... So this is now at the 10. So this is technically 2 dice weaker than Energy Ball right now. You know what? Actually, we'll just go ahead and we'll make it so it can only use it 3 times. Okay, and then we'll put Lockout on it. So what Lockout means is while you're using this move, you can't use anything else. And then I'll go ahead and just increase it to... So this is now at the hard cap for a multi-stage game. So this is a really strong attack that hits everything in a 4-meter radius, and basically all the adjacent hexes to wherever Pet Lil is, or wherever Lilligant is, this will hit them. It is locked into it until it uses all 3 of its charges. That's not quite how Lockout's supposed to work, but that's how we're working it for this game. And then, on the other hand, we're going to make Pedal Blizzard. I'm going to make this as a ranged attack, basically. This is going to be this is the ranged opposite. So another 4-meter radius. And we'll go ahead and give this a 4. And this I will lock at the 10. Or, you know what, I'll even lock it at the 9, because, you know, again, it's Pet Lil, it's Pet Lil, it's soft, it's not wanting to do... It's not wanting to hurt anybody, so this is they're still at range, and it's not desperate yet attack. And I was forgetting to put the grass type in the notes. Let's see, what other options do we have? It's all grass, though. This is normally where I would include something to give it some type variation, but it's really not got that. Oh well. You know what we can do, though? Instead of type variation, we can give it effect variation, because, you know, this is very vibes-based Pokemoning here. We don't have to just limit ourselves to game effects. You know how in the anime, I think there was an episode where Ash's Bulbasaur hit something with Leech Seed, and it, like, wound it up in vines and made it unable to move? We can do that. Actually, you know what? We'll go ahead and we'll do a compound power. So this is basically 2 powers smashed together into one thing. Leech Seed. So then we will go ahead and add. And now, where is it? Come on, brain. Entangle, that's it. For some reason I was thinking it was a word that started with C. Okay. Want it to be something that is relatively hard to break out of, but not impossible. So what I'd like to do for that is I give it extra body. So basically it puts a thing on a character that they can't move until they damage its health enough to destroy it. And it has its own defense. It's an object, effectively, as far as the game is concerned. Treating it like it's a programming thing, not a tabletop game. 4d6 is how much health it has. And then the 3 PD means that it will, you know, ignore 3 body damage from either elemental or physical damage, energy or physical damage. Sorry, for some reason I got it that E is elemental damage, and it's just refused to leave. Objects only take body damage; they don't take stun. So what this means is that this is relatively weak. Let's see. So if you hit this with if you hit this with the energy ball, well, okay, the energy ball wouldn't do anything for starters. But so the energy ball does, on average, each d6 of a normal damage attack is a point of body. So assuming that this rolled 1 point of health per d6, which is about the average, this also averages out to 1 per d6. Then you would have 4 total health with 3 defense. So this energy ball would just instantly destroy it. We'll go ahead and just pop it up to 4, I think. I'm trying to remember what I set up like light screen and stuff to be, because that's kind of a good point I think I had it at. Just go ahead and leave it here, I think, because it is a combo attack too, and 45 points is already quite expensive. Can I? No, okay. I'm just a little wary about putting in combo powers because basically I can't just run it as one attack. I have to run it as 2 separate attacks, and that can very quickly add up into taking a lot of extra time. So part of me is considering just making the lychee vines the attack basically, and taking out the I was going to put a health drain on there. I'm already committed. And so that 45 points, by the way. So it's good to keep track of your active points because I know, okay, this has a 45 active point cost. So this is roughly, in strength, it's roughly half an energy ball. Charges, entangles need to be careful about because entangles are not super fun to play against for players. Because people don't like being tied up and unable to escape. That's part of the reason, too, why I'm so wary about making a entangle with a whole bunch of defense. Because I've had times where players just could not, for the life of them, free themselves from some form of entangle or another. And it sucked, man. It sucked for them. I felt so bad, especially because the defense that the one I have in mind in particular, it was like a weird mind control effect, or it was flavored as a mind control effect, but you had to use ego to escape it, like you would strength to escape a normal attack. You would use strength to escape a normal entangle. You had to use ego to escape this one. And this guy got to roll 2 dice, which means he could do an average of 2 damage. And this ego entangle literally only had 1 point of health. It only had to take 1 damage to get destroyed, and it only had 1 point of defense, and he just kept rolling ones. And the way that it's figuring out normal damage body, a 1 on a d6 is 0 body. You can do a maximum of 2 body if you roll a 6. If you roll a 1, you get 0. If you roll anything in between, you get 1. And he never rolled a 6, and he kept rolling ones. So he just never he would technically break the defense, but then he wouldn't actually break the entangle. And it was just every single turn for 4 turns in a row. I really need to look at the statistics of that because it was pretty crazy. Because he hit I'm not going to go into that right now, but that's out of the total possible combination of things to roll on 2d6, you're rolling that maybe a third of the time, and he got it every single time. But yeah, so we'll go ahead and we'll just give this 4 power points. Not going to be useful a whole lot, but again, it's an entangle. I don't want them using it a whole lot. Then I'm going to go ahead and add a drain. And instead of, we're not going to, or you know what? We're going to drain body, and we're going to drain stun. And since that's 35 and that's 75. Yeah, we'll go ahead and put this up to a 65. So it's not terribly strong, but well, I haven't even included all the modifiers actually, so this might be 45. Yeah. I'll go ahead and just put it down to 2d6 plus 1. And then also the charges for 4 to bring the cost down. Yeah, so this does direct damage to the characteristics, or potentially, if you're just using the system normally, the powers that are being targeted by the drain. This is the exact opposite of an aid. So draining body and stun, it won't do a whole lot of damage because specifically powers and characteristics that are listed as defense powers only take half of an effect. So it would be whatever's rolled on the 2d6 plus 1 divided in half, and then that number of character points is taken off of the body and stun. So it's just physically shrinking the health bar. If they have 20 points, it could bring it down to 15 or so. Let's see. Entrainment is for passing off your move. You know what? We're gonna go ahead and give it Sunny Day. But we're gonna go lore-wise with it. Because honestly, making it as it is in the game would be like a whole list of effects. Well, it wouldn't really, would it? Because it would be a drain and an aid. It would be an aid for fire attacks and a drain for water attacks. Thank you, brain. Sorry. But I don't want to do that, and the system doesn't automate going after like powers like that very well. So instead, we're going to treat this as, you know, we're vibes-based Pokemoning here. Instead, it is going to increase the temperature level, just basically drains endurance, and it's not super useful. The main thing I'm wanting this as is just a way for it to decide to proc its chlorophyll and then have some extra little buff on the side. So actually, what do I want to do? I might go with the drain and aid, honestly, because it's not like what was I doing with Sandstorm? Because I had like a... You know what? File open. Pokememes, Moo Wrestling. So before Vulpixie chose Silvally, I thought she was going to go for Alolan Vulpix. And I started working on the character, just throwing out some ideas for myself. And I thought... Yeah, you can see here I have the old resistances. I had the old way I did resistances of having it stacked multiple times. This was just a lot of extra work on my part that didn't actually add to anything. I thought I got the... because it has like Snow Cloak, right? And I thought I had... I think I was pondering it, and then it never actually made it to the character sheet, which is unfortunate. You ever have a really good idea and then think to yourself, oh yeah, I'm gonna remember this later, and then what happens? You don't remember it later. You never do. So it wasn't Vulpixie, was... Did it end up on Sandshrew? I think it may have ended up on Sandshrew. Yeah, so how I'm doing immunity, there is a 75% resistance. Also with kind of the caveat of if there's like a common sense argument of why this in particular should just do nothing, like Earthquake against a flying Pokemon, then, you know, we're just basically not going to roll the attack. That's what I did. I turned Sandstorm into an aid. I took whatever Sandshrew's ability that boosts its evasion in sand. I took it and I just turned that into Sandstorm and gave it the ability to turn it on for itself. So, you know what? Yeah, because then that takes out the like Rube Goldberging of step 1, do this thing. Step 2, trigger goes off. Now this thing goes off too. It's just you do one thing and it go. Let me just check the book real quick and see like what increasing the temperature does, because I'm not sure what exactly that's going to do that's beneficial here. Yeah, changing environment is one of the like most variable powers in here, so it has a very long section of the book dedicated to itself. One step in the temperature level. What's that? Oh, and then, okay, so there's a whole chart. And here's the wind table. I use this for whirlwind. Yeah, it's just draining endurance, but it's not even like draining it in a reasonable time scale. It's draining it points lost per 20 minutes. Yeah, so the thing is, like, I don't want to... It's the problem with, like, the fire type moves and stuff. I don't want to deal with that, basically. It's just me wanting to be... I'm calling it lazy in my brain, but honestly, it's just efficient in that I don't want to be worrying about extra bonus effects while I'm in the middle of running a game. I want to try and streamline things as much as possible. So I want to like give it, you know, a vibe-based effect on something rather than strictly follow the game rules, because then I could make something my own that is simpler and works a bit better with the game. Seeing that, not really super good. You know what? So what we're just going to do is we're going to go ahead and rename Sunny Day plus chlorophyll. Then we're going to go ahead. What is only to aid self is a -1. So we're going to put a -1/3. Yeah. And Pokemon with chlorophyll. Didn't have to read it that time. And then we're going to go ahead and take the trigger off of there because it's not triggering it automatically. Aid. And then we'll go ahead and area of effect. No, we'll put a massive radius on this. 16-meter radius. Limitations. Where's no range? Oh, right. Aid is no range by default. Awesome. So basically my thought on this is like, you know, throws its hands up in the air and summons a fake little sun, or maybe it, you know, parts the clouds and the sunbeam comes down upon it. Something like that. Depends on what's happening in the game, but it does something, and everything within a certain range that has chlorophyll gets this buff. And I'll go ahead and put a custom add on here for like -10 points. Gives 1 DC, well, you know what, gives 2 DCs to fire attacks. So whenever somebody uses a fire attack within that radius, they're also going to be, oh, is that really worth I'll say it's working with a team of Petlil. Everything on its team is weak to fire, so yeah, that's a -10. And you know what? Just because now I'm turning this from an ability into an actual attack, I'm going to go ahead and increase that to 4d6 plus 1. Just to get it up there in the actual, like, range of an actual attack. Like, because that's, 79, 90, 75, 56. Like, 75 points is the typical maximum of where things are, but then I think around 90 is where I've been putting like the absolute maximum for active points, because again, that's kind of how you balance this, is by weighing your active points versus how many defenses you allow, and then everything else flows from there. What having more character points in the character then means is that you basically are able to splurge a little bit more on like more body and stun, and more into all the various characteristics that maybe don't immediately improve damage, but can let you do other things. Actually, you know what? Since it's a mini boss, it just hit me. It shouldn't be a measly 3 foot tall. How tall do I want this thing to be? I'm thinking like a 2 meter tall, like it's a mini boss. It's gotta be, well, okay, I was about to say it's a mini boss. It's gotta be mini, but no, it's not. It's not that mini a mini boss. It's a little bit of a, the ruler of the Petlils all on its own. So we'll go ahead and just make it, oops, not that tall. 6'11". Still, I was really surprised when 7'7". I did not realize this thing is that tall. This thing is a giant. But yeah, so we've got a giant Petlil that's nearly twice the height of a normal Petlil, or that'd be a scary thing. A giant Lilligant that's basically twice the height of a normal Lilligant is what we're working with here. Now, we've got another 30 points, and now I could go into the TM. I am really tempted, honestly. Alluring Voice. Honestly, you know what? Let's go ahead and just give it... what does Alluring Voice do? That's just a single target attack, isn't it? Yeah. Also confuses the target. I've already got a compound move on here. I'm just going to make this a straight single target damage in the vein of Energy Ball, just, weaker. Alluring Voice, and then since this isn't the major attack, we'll go ahead and just put it at 10. This, so at the soft cap. How many power points? 10. So how many points did I put on Energy Ball? I put like 8, right? Yeah, honestly, from the fights, so I've got another character who has he's got this thing called a multi-power, where the important thing in this context is it's a whole bunch of little power, or it's a whole bunch of regular sized powers, but they're in one big umbrella, so you can't use them at the same time. And they kind of run off the same resources if they have charges. So this, so he has like 12 charges on all of the attacks within that pool. So 8, and like that honestly lasts him most fights. So 8 charges on its own is going to last a lot of turns. I was a bit worried with J-Moji's character because he only had 10 strength. He didn't have any martial arts, much like Lilligant here. So I was really worried that he was going to run out of power points at some point. and then kind of just have nothing to do on his turns. But luckily that didn't happen. They had, because if 12 is about how many you're going to go through in a regular fight, well, we've got 16 right here between the first two attacks, so it's not a big deal. Anyway, so we've got alluring voice there, so we've got, oh, right, berry attack. So now we've got some form of, not stab, some form of type variation in its attacks at least. Healing wish, what is that? Mirror or herb? Oh, if it's holding the mirror herb, I'm guessing, right? That's interesting. What is healing wish? Is it just wish, but oh no, it causes the users to faint and then restores it, and okay. That gives me an idea. Oh yeah, what's pollen puff? Because first of all, what's bug good again? Oh, psychic and dark. Yeah, so actually, pollen puff would be another good move to add for some type variation. Well, we're already at the 448 though. But hey, you know where I said that I can just eyeball it a little bit and go a little loosey-goosey? Because like I said, I've got the active points and how much damage they do balanced. So now all of this is basically just extra utility that isn't actually adding that much value. So it's tough, but you know, it's not like super duper tough. It's tough, it gives it a little bit of extra effect, but it's not going to help it a whole lot. It's not making it overpowered, is what I'm trying to say. It's making it more robust, but it's not going to tip the scales and just absolutely ruin a fight. So let's see. Varies on the target. Targets an opponent, deals damage. So that's very interesting. I don't think I want to do this, honestly, because I've got other ideas for what I'm going to do, especially with that healing wish. So what I'm going to do here is we're going to do healing. And then synthesis. And this is going to heal body and stun. So we need the expanded effect modifier. And now healing in Hero System has a whole bunch of limitations on it normally that make it because most attacks go off of endurance, which can recover very, very quickly. So in order to balance healing, they made it so that healing can only affect up to a certain level based off of how strong the healing move is. Since this is Pokemon and we're using charges for everything, I'm basically just completely ignoring those rules. So we're just going to go ahead and put 3 charges on here. And now I forget, is it... No, so unlike aid, you can't have only to heal self, unfortunately. It's not even in the unavailable, that's... Yeah, I guess because only to heal self, they only assume that you're going to be using it on... Or sorry, only to affect self, only to aid self specifically. They assume that it's only going to be used on... you know, aid. It's a limitation specifically for aid, so I can't use it for healing, but I can potentially synthesize it with the limited power. This is the catch-all limitation for like, hey, you come up with something, it's not in the list, here you go. But so yeah, basically for synthesis, I'm going to have it that it can use synthesis to heal itself or to heal an ally. It's basically going to be how I made Haruka's Moonlight. We're going to go ahead and make it 5d6s. It's going to be really strong. You know what? We're going to go ahead and, yeah, we'll leave it at a 5, at 4 and 3. And actually, so I said with complications, it has 25 here. So 25 experience. Oh, hey. Boy, I wish I had planned this. I wish I could say that I had planned this. But so what I'm going to do with the next bit is Healing Wish. How do I do the... How does Healing Wish go? Because it just hit me that I'm going to have to enter in like everything that could potentially be drained so that it can heal everything that's potentially been, you know what, I'm just going to go and do it. Stun, Dex, Speed. What are the... No, I don't usually target. I'm just going to hit the usual suspects here of things that I target. So I use Burn to target Strength a lot. Or Body and... Yeah, or Body and Stun. Body and Stun can be healed. Because off the top of my head, healing also applies against drains, which means that it would apply against, you know, the damage that... what was it? Oh, Leech Seeds, Drain, Body, and Stun. To the best of... I believe that healing would counteract that, basically. And we're just going to go ahead and make it an absolutely ridiculously powerful, because this is going to kind of be its signature thing. Add modifier, charges, 1 charge, because can't do it. Knocks out the user after use. Expanded effects. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is there anything else that I... I don't use, because I use Burn to target Strength and like that, and Body, like I said, or Stun. I use Poison for Body and Stun. I use Paralysis for Dex and Speed. PD and ED in case they're hit by, whatchamacallit, like Tail Whip or something. So yeah, really, really expensive power, but really limited there too. It can only use it once and it just knocks itself out. And you know what? We'll go ahead and pop Resurrection on there. And it can heal limbs. Is there like an even harsher version of it? Nope. Almost all of it, and it just goes up to -2. I mean, so this is basically going to be like more of a... what I call like a lore ability, basically. Like, you know, for hype moments in Aura, this is more for, my thought here is, you know, maybe the players convince it to help them, that this opens it up as an option to like, then I can throw some extra damage onto the enemy and it'll be that much more epic of a fight. And if it turns out that they're losing, I can go ahead and use this to take the Lilligant out of the fight and then nerf the boss back down to its actual normal strength level. It'd be a little bit off the cuff, honestly, because, you know, I'd be in the middle of running the game when I had to do it. So caring about the balance and figuring it out would be a little bit wacky. This gives me an escape cord. And also, you know, opens up to like a sad moment of, oh no, Lilligant sacrificed itself. And I don't know, maybe they like get a seed out of it and they can replant it somewhere afterwards. go ahead and put that at the bottom. Safely tuck it away. So, we're 100 points over. Oops. But honestly, I'm not counting this 100 points because, as I said, this is more lore ability than actual gonna use it in a fight ability, so I don't think it really counts. More, gives me something to do for storytelling purposes. We'll see where the winds blow whenever I use this thing. But otherwise, I think that's pretty good. Not a whole lot of type variation, honestly. I am a little worried about that. What other options does it even have? Is it literally just Pollen Puff? Oh, okay, so it has some normal type attacks. Oh, Weather Ball would be interesting. Oh. So see, now I'm thinking of replacing Alluring Voice with Weather Ball. Now, see, this is why the system doesn't save me any time, because it's like, ooh, I could, like, all my it's so laid out here conveniently, and I have so much stuff that I can change that, ooh, I could give it Weather Ball, and then I could have, like, an attack that's normal until it uses Sunny Day, and then it becomes a fire type attack, and ooh, which is better type coverage? Which is better type coverage? Fairy type is a pretty strong offensive type. Let me just... I need to cut myself off. I'm not even going to entertain it. I need to just cut myself off here. We are stopping here. Lilligant is complete. Just noticed my first time chat. How long ago was that? Whoops. Bye-bye. Damn, my first actual comment, and it's a guy trying to sell me robots. Not even cool robots that I can use to wage war against the Galactic Republic. No. Just things that will pretend to be viewers, because that's a thing that we need in this day and age. And with that, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and close it out here. I've been going for 2 hours. Normally, this is how long it takes to make a character if I'm, like, going through it with a player, typically. Because I got to explain the system and everything. I've been explaining the system. If I do this in the future, I probably won't explain it as... Well, I don't know. I'm streaming. I can't guarantee that people have watched it, can I? Oh, well. Future me has to decide it. Right now, I'm thinking we're good here. So, hope you have a good day. And go ahead, stay safe. Maybe leave a comment when you see this on YouTube. I'll catch you next time.